driveway where I park my squad.
I was gotcha.
So it's gonna be an adjustment for all of us.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be on for
I think we're all ready to go.
He's fine there if he wants to stay there.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call our meeting to order of the December 17th McLeod County Board of Commissioners. Can we please begin our meeting by standing with our Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do have a very big meeting today, and we have a little bit of a problem with some illnesses, and so that's held a few of our moving pieces from being up here. However, I think we're going to do just fine. Administration does a great job of preparing everything for us. So we are going to start our meeting today with our employee recognition, and perhaps a four-legged employee today is going to start this out. But I will call Sheriff Tim Langenfeld to address our very special occasion this morning.
Good morning. We're here, kind of a bittersweet day for us at the Sheriff's Office for Sergeant Stiles and K9 Kilo. I came to you last board meeting and you approved the sale of K9 Kilo to Sergeant Stiles due to an upcoming retirement. Kilo will be retiring on December 31st after 8.5 years of service to McLeod County. He came in December of 2015, attended all of his training, and has done countless hours since then. Lives at home with Sergeant Stiles, his wife Christy, and kids. K9 program is more, not to take anything away from Sergeant Stiles, but it truly becomes a family thing because there's so much care and stuff that's needed with that dog and the program. Sergeant Stiles has done an outstanding job for us. As a supervisor, he currently supervises the program as well as runs the dog. And this is going to be a big change, not only for Sergeant Stiles in the Sheriff's Office, but for Kilo as well, since he's going to have to adjust to a new life at home. So with that, I'll turn it over to the board, and I just want to say thank you very much, Sergeant Stiles, Kilo, for a job very well done. His last day is December 31st, and we will be doing a little recognition event at the Sheriff's Office on that day for him. But I'll turn it over to you.
I guess we've never had to have a retirement comment for a canine before. But I will ask for Mr. Stiles if you have any comments about your years with Kilo and maybe what retirement looks like. We can say golfing for other people, but I'm not sure if that's quite in his plans. So.
Yep. This is my partner Kilo. He is retiring at the end of the year. It'll be his last day will be December 31st. Sheriff Langenfeld kind of hit the nail on the head when he said bittersweet. Obviously, this guy has been absolutely amazing to be his partner. It's been one wild ride. He is an amazing dog. What these guys add to the agency is unbelievable. Obviously, there were days that I didn't know if we were going to make it because he's a little high-strung, but he has been one heck of a partner, and it's been unreal. So I think the agency I work for and the support that I had in being the handler for Kilo and getting selected to be his partner, I feel safer every day that I have him in the car with me. It's going to be an adjustment. Talk about retirement. I left him home about a month ago. I had a training day at the office. Didn't need to have him with. We were doing defensive tactics at the Sheriff's Office, and I don't think my partners would like how he was going to assist somebody fighting me. But left him home. My children let him out about 15 minutes after I left, and he decided to show me his feelings on being left home, and he pooped in the driveway where I parked my squad. So it's going to be an adjustment for all of us. So, and he's crying. Because he wants his toy and he wants to work. I could tell him to go see dope right now, and he'd check you out to see if he had any dope on him. So it's been awesome. It's the greatest job I've ever had in my life, and I thank the county board for giving the agency a K-9 unit. I do think they are very valuable. The amount of people and narcotics that Kilo has found in the a little over 8.5 years that we've been certified has been very valuable. So that's all I have, and thank you.
I think we
I want a picture, and I probably won't get that toy back.
I think we do have a couple comments up here, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sergeant Stiles, can you give us a little reference about, let's say, one of the highlighted cases that you and Kilo worked on in Kilo's career?
So we had, there's two that I can think of that were my proudest moments. Hey, sit. Were my proudest moments as being a canine handler. We had a pursuit Labor Day weekend. First, I had just gotten promoted to sergeant, so it would have been 2020. We had a pursuit that was coming from Renville County into our county. One of our deputies got spike strips out, got it spiked coming into the county. Vehicle pulled into Stewart. Between Renville County, Sibley County, McLeod County, Hutchinson Police Department, we had 17 squad cars in the city of Stewart. It looked like a Christmas tree with all the flashing lights. 3 individuals took off from the car. We gave the canine warning. We give people the opportunity to surrender, that the dog will find them and he may bite them. One of the individuals that took off to the east by himself gave up when we gave the warning. The other 2 were out and about. We did a track that took about 5-6 minutes, went through about 2 blocks of houses, and all of a sudden Kilo started prancing like any of you that have hunting dogs. He was Birdie, but he was Birdie for human. We ended up locating the 2 individuals up in a tree in someone's backyard. That one was awesome. And then we had a pursuit, kind of a pursuit where the driver vehicle had rolled. We didn't know if he was injured, and if he wasn't injured, he needed to go to jail. That took off. We got called out. When we got there, the state patrol airplane was flying overhead with all their fancy new equipment. We started a track. We ended up tracking well, and we lost the track. We didn't give up. We turned it into an area search of the square block out in the county that we were focusing on. The airplane, after about 45 minutes to an hour, said there's nobody out here, we're done. And they flew back to St. Paul. We didn't give up. We ended up coming back to a tree line where there were a bunch of houses. Kilo got Birdie again, and we ended up finding that individual underneath the pine tree. He was either unconscious or faking. I would assume the latter, because he came to pretty quickly. But those were two of our highlights. He's very good at finding people.
Mr. Chair. And of Sergeant Stiles, those are awesome stories that you're sharing with us. I congratulate you on the career and the dedication that you've given McLeod County, and I congratulate Kilo for the service and dedication that he has given McLeod County as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments, or we can grab it?
Thanks, Brian.
Yep, thank you. Thank you for that.
Mr. Chair. Yeah, I do. I remember when it started. I happened to, it was early in my commissioner career, and I could see the excitement between Officer Stile and Kilo right away that they were connecting, and I happened to be at a few presentations, so I remember how spunky he was when he was a pup. But no, it's been a great program, and thanks Kilo, and thanks Brian.
Thank you.
Chair, is he going to be replaced right away?
So the sheriff's office plan, we have a dog now, Archie. He's been with the agency about 3 years, I believe. So he'll continue, and then our goal is to replace Kilo, hopefully 2026. We've got some work to do to add another dog, but I think that is ultimately the sheriff's plan.
It took a long time, I read that, many years.
Yes.
One final comment, Mr. Chair. It's a great program, and you set a high bar with it, Officer Stiles, and I appreciate that.
Thank you guys.
Step down there for a picture with Kilo.
Kilo, yep.
Is he gonna be nice?
Just don't run.
Well, Daryl, you are retired today, so what do you got?
We did training in the government center last Thursday, so he is looking for drugs. Kilo, yep. Yep. Yep.
Where did you want up? You
Heel.
right in the middle or wherever he settled.
Kilo, yep. Hey. Yep. Hey. Yep. Kilo. Hey. Kilo. Heel. Yep. Six. Yeah, he's 10 years old, so we are retiring him because he is older. That's it. Oh my Lord. Come here.
Still got plenty of spot.
Sit. Here. Scott. Sit. There you go. Sit.
Is his badge somewhat straight? Yep, badge is good.
Oh, the boy. Absolutely. Thank you, guys. I got a little bit of school on Thank you. Kilo. Okay. Come here. What are you guys hiding up there?
Stand on this side while the people are. Our next retirement today that we're here to recognize would be for our Commissioner Luthens. So I have the privilege today to present Mr. Luthens with his a plaque and award for his years of service. Some comments about Daryl. I know it wasn't too long after he became a board member that there were some health concerns that perhaps held him back. However, he did everything that he could to participate in all the meetings, learned a few things about Zoom calls, and push through. And sometimes we can call that being stubborn, but here we can call that resilience, Daryl. Okay, so thank you for being able to attend everything that you could, and you weren't afraid to admit it when we went through our meeting assignments that there were some health concerns that were perhaps keeping you away from doing everything that you want to do. But you were here. You definitely did as much work as you could, and we appreciate those years of service. And so we'll perhaps look to your fellow board members to see if they have any other retiring comments for you.
Mr. Chair and Daryl, we joined the county board together, and it was a learning experience for both of us, I believe. And it was easy to tell where your heart was. Your heart was with McLeod County. Your heart was, to look at the spending we were doing and try to put, I don't want to say put the brakes on, but make sure that we were making wise investments in county government. And I appreciated that about you. And like Paul said, your resilience has been exceptional. And I congratulate you on your 4 years of service. Thank you.
Well, I guess he kind of stole my thunder there, but I talked with Commissioner Luthens quite often about the agendas and different decisions that we had to make. He was very thorough, is very thorough, and but most of all, I'm just glad that you look as good as you do, and things are working out the best. So that's the most important part. So thanks, Daryl.
Yep.
Daryl, 4 years has flown by, and I just probably echo what Paul did. I don't know how you did it. You're one tough SOB, because I don't think many people could have powered through like you did. So congratulations on your retirement. Enjoy some time away. You're welcome every or first and third Tuesday if you want to, but,
Thank you,
but,
Joe.
it's been an honor.
Comments yourself, Daryl?
I'd like to thank the committee, the commissioners for all the help they gave me, especially Commissioner Kruger, and to all the people I worked for in the county. I'd like to say thank you for their support. One of the first things I did as a county commissioner was on the snowstorm. Jumped in a snow plow, and I think the meeting before we approved a new snow plow for, what was it, 700,000? And we gave up one that was 15,000. So me, as agriculture, that was hard to stomach. That much money when the old one is still working. So again, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Sure.
We'll now come up by the flag and like Daryl's family to come and join us. Daryl, you want to come up here or down below?
Thank you. Front center?
Front center, front center.
Right in between. Thank you. Thank you. You've been with me there. Hi. Hi.
And now we will be able to go into our regular business item of the day, but it was definitely a great way to begin our meeting, to recognize those great individuals that were able to serve McLeod County constituents, Commissioner Luthens, and our canine Kilo.
Paul,
Yes.
maybe you want to announce the donuts again so people know they were.
Sure. Yep. Good call. We do have plenty snacks in back for our retirements here today. So please go ahead and enjoy those for all those that have joined us today for our meeting. We'll go into item number 2, consideration of agenda items. Although we've been trying to swap things around here quite a bit today, I think that we have our agenda as presented quite complete, unless someone else has any other information to that.
Move to approve the agenda. Second.
We have a motion by Nagel and a second by Kruger to approve today's agenda items. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move on the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion by Kruger and a second by Nagel to approve today's consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we will proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to our community spotlight, we'll call on Liz Danielson, our economic development coordinator.
Mr. Chair,
Oh, yes.
if I can take a step back, do we intend to address the administrative review and that employment contract? I mean,
The closed meeting? I think so.
I believe we can, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead, Liz.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm here today with a community spotlight feature where we have the opportunity to hear from Carrie Oppheim, who's the executive director of the McLeod Food Shelf. The McLeod Food Shelf's mission is to eliminate hunger and food insecurity, as well as improve the health and well-being of our community through equitable access to healthy and nutritious food, community education, and advocacy. So Carrie's here this morning to share more about the incredible impact of the food shelf and the services that they provide to McLeod County.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, thank you. What do I do to next? Perfect. Thank you. First, let me start by thanking you for choosing McLeod Food Shelf as your community spotlight today. Pardon me, I'm bumping his laptop already. As a vital resource in our community, we are proud to show you the hard work that our citizens have faithfully supported since 1983. Let's start by looking at our mission statement, which Liz just read for us very beautifully. As you can see, McLeod Food Shelf has not only made it our mission to eliminate hunger in our community, but also dedicates its resources towards community education and advocacy. What this means is we have built strong partnerships with agency partners to meet our clients with a holistic approach to service, ensuring that clients have access to the resources that they need to thrive. We provide referrals and education to assist clients in navigating through tough times through our network of support here in McLeod County. Today, McLeod Food Shelf is in its 40th year of service in our community. All of this great work began back in 1983 when a group of concerned citizens recognized that they had neighbors in need. It was in April of 1983 that first family was served 24 pounds of food in the Community Action Office over in Hutchinson. That then led this McLeod County Board of Commissioners to pass a resolution to provide free space in the courthouse for the food shelf to operate out of. By 1984, McLeod Food Shelf was registered with the state and received its own 501c3 tax-free status, along with a $1,500 grant to serve clients within that first year. Since then, McLeod Food Shelf has made several moves around McLeod County, and now, thanks to a legacy gift from a member of our community, McLeod Food Shelf has a permanent location here in Glencoe. We continue to also serve from a rented location in Hutchinson, and 7 cities here in McLeod County enjoyed services right in their neighborhoods thanks to our mobile outreach program that we launched in 2020. As you can see, since 2020, our distributions went from 7,329 to 13,502. That's an 84% increase in service. Since the start of the pandemic, I think that we've all witnessed consumer good prices rise to a level that affect even the most affluent in our community. This sudden shift has had a significant impact on those who are most vulnerable. It may surprise some people to know that a large majority of the clients we serve are working families who simply aren't able to keep up with the daily expenses despite their best budgeting efforts. Last year, 30% of the population that we served was between the ages of 0 and 17. And thanks to our community of supporters, donors, and volunteers, we are able to greet those in need with smiling faces and fresh, healthy foods. I mentioned earlier our mobile outreach program, and here's a picture of the amazing bus and staff who is driving away hunger in our community. Last month, over 50% of the clients we served were over 65 years old off of that mobile outreach unit. Needless to say, those numbers speak volumes to me about the needs of seniors here in McLeod County and how much of a barrier transportation truly is. I will also mention that this bus is also retrofitted with a handicap accessible ramp, which allows even our community members with mobility struggles to come and shop our bus and choose the foods that they would like to enjoy. We are often asked how to join this fight against hunger. For this, I would invite you to visit our website where you'll find a bounty of ideas to suit your needs. But some of the easiest ways are to volunteer your time, to donate, or to host an event. As a volunteer, you may be asked to sort and stock shelves, assist clients with shopping or loading their groceries. You may be asked to pack or distribute food, or you may be even asked to join our board of directors to make a meaningful difference here in our community. When thinking of donating, I want you to know that $1 equals about 3 meals of food for families. Our most needed items are always available on our website, and often our sandwich boards are outside of each location, shouting those out as well. But anything, and I mean anything, that people have to spare, we promise to put to good use. Some of the most common items we are always in need of are non-perishables, such as canned goods, pasta, rice, and cereals, fresh produce, meat, dairy items, and personal care items like soaps, toiletries, and household essentials. Hosting an event is a fun way to raise awareness and funds for this important cause. You could organize a fun run, a walk, or a bike ride. You could host a food drive or sponsor a matching donation during our March or July campaigns. Or you could plan a fundraising dinner or even host the hot dog booth at Caborn's in the near future. However you choose, supporting your local food shelf is crucial for several reasons. Food insecurity affects millions of Americans, and last month, McLeod Food Shelf supported nearly 2,000 individuals in our community who needed such support. Food shelves provide a safety net for those struggling to make ends meet. McLeod Food Shelf can serve as a catalyst for community engagement, encouraging volunteers, local businesses, and organizations to get involved in supporting vulnerable populations. This can help to build a stronger, more compassionate McLeod County. With McLeod Food Shelf breaking over 40 years of distribution history records for the past 2 years in a row, community support of this cause is now more crucial than ever before. By volunteering, donating, or hosting an event to support our fight against hunger, you can make a difference for those in need. So why not get involved today and make our community a better place for everyone? Thank you again for having us and placing a spotlight on our mission on hunger to eliminate hunger here in McLeod County. Truly, thank you very much, gentlemen.
All right, well, thank you for the presentation. Board members, any comments? I think we all definitely recognize the importance of the McLeod County Food Shelf throughout our community. Anybody have any questions at all?
And Mr. Chair, if I could,
Yeah.
I'll just note I am on the board of directors for the food shelf, and I would just like to highlight the staff and volunteer. I mean, the amount of time and work that these folks put in, our staff go above and beyond, and there's volunteers that put in countless hours, and it's not always easy work. It's lifting, carrying, sorting. It's not glamorous, but I think when you work with some of the people that come in and receive distributions, it's certainly worthwhile and it's rewarding. So I would just like to acknowledge really those volunteers. That organization couldn't run without them, and they do an awesome job.
Okay.
Yeah, to that note, we have 53 volunteers on our regular roster. This is definitely a community-supported organization. Our most donated hours was actually from a volunteer who's 85 years old and did 900 hours last year for McLeod Food Shelf. So really dedicated support team. Thank you again, guys.
Yeah. Any further questions at all? No?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
I know some of the volunteers and I know their excitement about making it a successful program is outstanding, and all I can think of is thanks. And I know it's an important part of the Glencoe community especially, and I do remember when you got your mobile service going. I remember the challenges I think it was the first or second winter about getting it in somewhere, getting in storage, and glad we could help, and it looks like everything's going well, so thanks.
Well, thank you so much for coming today. It was very enlightening to see your information, and again, thank you to what you do, and please pass that along to your board as well. All right, thank you. We'll then move on to our next agenda item, which will be Health and Human Services. Barrett Spores.
Good morning.
Morning.
I have 4 items before you today. The first is to consider delegating authority to the McLeod County Health and Human Services Director to sign contracts in all matters related to the administration of public assistance programs and the authority to execute all grant contracts with the Department of Human Services effective January 1st, 2025 and yearly thereafter. This includes but is not limited to our children's mental health screening, child welfare, juvenile justice grant, children's mental health respite grant, our adult mental health grant, our adult mental health initiative grant, our child care assistance plan grant, MFIP biannual service agreements, and our 4D child support agreement. So just to elaborate a little bit more, the Department of Human Services has gone away from doing just allocations to these grants. So there is no negotiating the amount of money we get, but they are saying that they are a grant contract which needs an official signature. So.
Okay, any questions at all for Barrett on that?
Mr. Chair, I'll move request.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Schmalz, second by Kruger, to consider delegating authority to the McLeod County Health and Human Services Director to sign contracts in all matters related to the administration of public assistance programs. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Barrett, this isn't really a change. You've always overseen it, is that correct?
I've always overseen it, but I've had to get the chair's signature on it. So that's when I'm calling Paul or texting Paul and say, hey, you probably got a DocuSign you need to take care of. This will just eliminate that because it's really a formality. It's money we're getting.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Item B, consider approving the contract for service with Donna England to provide support services to children and families at a rate of $29.85 per hour, not to exceed 300 hours or the equivalent of $8,955 for the period of January 1st through December 1st, 2025, with funds from the Individual and Family Social Services Budget 11-430. Services that may be provided include parenting assistance, money management, meal planning and grocery shopping, learning appropriate social skills, and independent living skills. This is a contract renewal, and it is a 3% increase from our current 2024 contract.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
And Barrett, the not to exceed amount, is that the same as in past year?
The not to exceed amount, the 300 hours is the same. The rate, the not to exceed amount is a little different because of the increase in the rate.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. And with that, I will move the what was asked.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Schmalz and a second by Luthens to approve a contract services with Donna England to, as a not to exceed 300 hours for $8,955. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Barrett, how close do we usually get to the 300 hours?
It varies. We usually don't get that close, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a very safe,
It is a very,
No,
yes,
okay.
yep.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, we will proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Item C, consider approving the contract for services with Terry Niemeyer, Nest LLC, to provide support services to children and families at a rate of $50.66 per hour, not to exceed 500 hours or the equivalent of $25,330 for the period of January 1st through December 31st, 2025, with funds from the Individual and Family Social Services Budget 11-430. Services that may be provided include parenting assistance, money managing, meal planning, and grocery shopping, learning appropriate social skills, and independent living skills. Again, this is a contract renewal and is a 2% increase over the 2024 current contract.
Move request, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Schmalz, second by Kruger, to approve a contract services with Tara Niemeyer as a not to exceed 500 hours or $25,330. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
How, some of these services are, I don't want to say redundant, but they have a lot of the same stuff in it, so how does your staff or you decide, do some of them get both services? How do you decide what level of care, lack of a better word, how do you decide which gets who?
Great question, Commissioner Kruger. We have been working with Terry and Donna for years. So if the staff are well-versed in what areas they are specialized in or what areas they're really good at, and so they would choose that. Clients don't get services from both generally. We just need two people because we have a number of clients that need the services. And these individuals not only contract with us, but they contract with other agencies as well.
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Item D, I am pleased to share the great news that Meeker McLeod Sibley Community Health Services has been reaccredited by the Public Health Accreditation Board, or affectionately known by us as FAB. What that means for Meeker McLeod Sibley is that we have been a measurement of the health department performance against a set of nationally recognized practice, focus, and evidence-based standards. This demonstrates our accountability and our credibility to everyone with whom the health department works with, the community, the elected officials, the funders, and partner organizations. It drives us to continually improve the quality of our services that we deliver. This has been an extensive process. Special shout out to Carrie Ward, who took the lead, who is a McLeod County employee, but she took the lead for Meeker McLeod Sibley. This is a great honor, a lot of work. We learn a lot through it. It directs our work for the coming years. And just a note, there are only 10 local health departments in Minnesota that are accredited. So this does set us apart. So that was just informational only.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
And Barrett, thanks for sharing that information. I think it was about 10 days ago that our executive director for our McLeod Meeker Sibley CHS contacted me with an email stating how excited she was that we were reaccredited. And I don't see the work that goes on behind the scenes, but I want to congratulate Kaisa and her staff for the work that they have done to get us to the point where we are today. We're just one of 51 CHBs in the state of Minnesota, so I mean that even puts a higher meaning on what you quoted as, how many are accredited and reaccredited in the state of Minnesota. So I thank Executive Director and staff for their hard work in completing this process. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Looks like we are into the time where we can do our public hearings, so we will now be looking at we have two ditch hearings that we will be seeing today. The first will be County Ditch number 13. I'll be entertaining a motion to open our public hearing for ditch 13.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Nagel, a second by Kruger to open the public hearing for McLeod County Ditch number 13. I do have language that I'll be properly reading off that Mr. Kolb has presented. I'd like to welcome everyone today to McLeod County Ditch 13 Repair Construction Contract Acceptance Hearing. The purpose of our hearing today is to consider the contract for construction for the repair of McLeod County Ditch 13 is complete in accordance to the plans and specification pursuant Minnesota State Statute Section 103E.555. The order of business for these hearings will be as follows. First, Mr. Kolb, attorney for the Drainage Authority, will explain the purpose of today's public hearing and give an overview of the public notice requirements. Following Mr. Kolb, our staff will review the notices given for today's hearing, and finally, our engineer from Houston Engineering will give a presentation on the engineer's report for the CD13 repair construction contract. After the initial presentations, I will open the hearing for public comments. The board would like to hear your comments and concerns regarding whether the contract for construction of the repair has been completed in accordance with the plans and specifications approved by the Drainage Authority. If you'd like to make a comment, please address the chair, and after I recognize you to speak, please state your name and address for the record. If you have a specific question concerning the Drainage Authority's final acceptance of the contract, we may ask our staff, engineer, or legal counsel to respond. Following the public comment portion of the hearing, the board will deliberate and take action. Would any board members wish to offer any remarks before we begin? Seeing none, all right, we will then move to our attorney, Mr. Kolb.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a slight deviation from the order of events today. The engineer is not in attendance, and so I will be reviewing her conclusions upon review of the completion of the project. Upon completion of work specified in any contract for construction, repair, or improvement of a public drainage system, the board has to hold a hearing to accept the work and consider any additional claims for damages or any penalties accruing against the contractor. Additional damages, for example, might be based on a delay in the work interfering with crop production or an owner's use of property over a period for which damages were not originally awarded. Additional damage might also be based on the contractor's departure from construction specifications or occupation or disturbance of areas beyond the limits of construction specified in the construction plans. Work within the area contemplated and included in the proceedings for establishment of the original drainage system, including removal of trees within the original construction footprint, is not subject to additional damage consideration. At this hearing, the board must consider the engineer's report of contract completion and receive comments and evidence from landowners regarding completion of the work and any additional damage claims. The board may order direct payment of the balance due if it determines that the contract has been completed in accordance with the plans and specifications, or if good cause is shown that the and if good cause is shown, the Drainage Authority may waive any part of liquidated damages accruing under the contract. Upon completion of the receipt of evidence today, I'll be working the board through a series of questions that should help the board arrive at a final decision today. You do have in your packet draft orders accepting the contract and authorizing final payment to the contractors. They are marked as draft because we don't know the exact outcome of today because we haven't heard all the testimony, but I do note that for the record so that if the board doesn't find that there's any impediments to moving forward, the recommendation of staff would be to adopt those findings and orders as presented. We are going to proceed in order with ditch 13 first and then ditch 29. However, the information for both is pretty much the same in terms of completion of the contract. Does the board have any questions of me before staff reviews the notices?
And then, so we got
Good morning. The notice requirements of the December 17th, 2024 public hearing were met by 3 consecutive publications in the McLeod County Chronicle on November 29th, December 6th, and December 13th. In addition, a printed copy was posted near the front door of the McLeod County Courthouse and the front door of the McLeod County Government Center, and individual notices were mailed to all benefited landowners impacted by the repair. Please also note for the drainage record that as of this morning, there were no written comments received via mail or email. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I believe we had a motion and a second. I don't know if we had a vote.
To open the public hearing?
Correct. I'm sorry, yeah.
Well, let's make sure that we did that. So if we didn't call it properly, then we did have a motion and a second. You're correct. But just to make sure for the record we did that, then let's vote that the public hearing needs to be open for McLeod County Ditch 13. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
We're back to the engineers now.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. On October 25th, 2024, your engineer presented to the county board chair and the board a summary of her conclusions regarding the completion of construction for the repair of County Ditch 13. This contract was awarded to Ewart Brothers, and prior to today's hearing, there have been 3 progress payments. The engineer is recommending release of retention and final payment, which is payment number 4 in the proceedings. That report indicates that the project was completed on the time schedule indicated in the contract, that there were no deviations from the scope of the work or the limits of construction, and that all work having been inspected during installation was found to be consistent with the plans and specifications for the project. The contractor concludes with regard to, the engineer concludes with regard to County Ditch 13 that there were no delays and no additional damages other than those already determined in the proceedings prior to awarding the contract. The contractor has submitted all required documentation and lien waivers, including the IC-134 through the state of Minnesota. And so the the engineer recommends the final payment and release of all contingencies. The engineer does note in her report that that the inspection and the completion of work and her opinion regarding the completion of work does not waive any contractual obligations of the contractor under their warranty and correction period. And this would cover latent defects or defects in installation that were not discovered during construction. And so if there is something that's found over the correction period under the contractor would still be liable to come back and correct those items. So the the engineer recommends, final payment of payment number 4 of $39,821.18 and a release of contingency which includes that amount. Unless there's any questions of me, I believe you could take a comment from the public prior to proceeding, Mr. Chair.
Okay, this would be our time period for public comment. If you do have any comments on the project for McLeod County Ditch 13, please come to the microphone and again, give us your name. And then we can address your concerns or comments that you have before the board today. Does anyone wish to approach the mic for McLeod County Ditch 13? Okay, looks like we have no comment. Mr. Kolb?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So again, questions for the board based on the evidence presented, including the engineer's report and any comments, which there were none, received today. The first question is, has the project construction been substantially completed in conformance with the contract? That's a yes or no, and I don't need a vote on that. I just need to know if there's any objections to a finding to that in that regard.
Any objections, anyone?
Thank you. The next question is, has the project construction been substantially completed within the time specified in the contract or is modified by change order? Again, don't need a vote on that, just need to know if there's an objection to that finding. Next question is, has the construction caused damages not contemplated or included in the original proceedings? We don't believe there have been any. Okay, thank you. I'm seeing head nods or concurrences. And then based on that, it is the recommendation of staff that the board consider adopting the findings and order as recommended. I will note one thing. There's a small change in paragraph 4. There was a repetition of by the contractor in that paragraph 4 that's been removed in the final version. So basically, we go through the findings as by order, the board directed construction of a repair of County Ditch 13. Upon advertised bids, the board awarded a contract for construction. Upon completion of the construction of the repair, the project engineer inspected the construction and prepared a report to the board showing the contract price, the amount paid on certificates, the unpaid balance, and the work completed under the contract. The engineer concluded that the work was performed according to the plans and specifications for repair, was performed within the right-of-way for which damages have been determined and paid for the construction and future maintenance of the system, and was performed by the contractor in a timely and workmanlike manner. The engineer's opinion excludes any defects in construction not discovered during installation and covered by backfill, latent defects, or other matters covered in the contractor's warranty. The engineer's conclusion does not relieve the contractor of any contractual warranty obligations. The engineers concluded that all amounts of the contract, including change orders and penalties, if any, should be paid to the contractor, and that any retainage should be released to the contractor as provided in the contract. Upon receipt of the engineer's report, the board did set a time for this hearing today and provided notice by mail to the affected landowners as indicated by the county auditor treasurer. At the hearing, the board took public comment. There were no comments. Based on the proceedings and the record herein, the board determines that the contract has been completed in accordance with the plans and specifications and that all work has been performed within the right-of-way area contemplated and included in the proceedings. And then for the order, you would state that the contract is accepted as complete. Any retainage under the contract shall be released to the contractor upon proof of release of all liens of contractors and materialmen related to the project, that nothing in the order relieves the contractor of its warranty obligations under the construction contract, and the McLeod County Auditor Treasurer is ordered to pay the balance due on the contract and the cost of repair as provided by Minnesota Statutes Chapter 103E. Are there any questions about the contents of the findings and order?
Nope.
I would move that we accept the order as presented by staff, today's hearing.
And second?
We have a motion by Kruger and a second by Schmalz to approve that we will adopt the acceptance order as presented by staff. Is there any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Mr. Kolb, does that complete the business for 13?
It does, Mr. Chair. The record will reflect a vote of 5-0 and will indicate without a roll call, but that each member of the board voted yes.
Okay. Connie, do you have anything further for Ditch 13?
I do the assessment for consideration for the board.
Yes. Do you have a recommendation?
Well, first, please, I'd like to make a couple comments. So CD 13 project was approved on June 20th of 2023 for $391,114. The final contract amount was $311,584. So I just wanted it noted that the project, was saved some dollars and actually under budget by 20.3%. I want the board to realize also that County Ditch 13 does have a one-year assessment going on for Pay 25, and they also have one other current rolling multi-year assessment. That assessment started in 2021. It is 77.5% paid already by the landowners, so some of them chose to pay up front. And I would like to thank you and commend those landowners for their financial responsibility. I guess then the rest of what we need to do for this project now is assess the $311,584, and that we did a cost analysis of like the top 10 landowners, and for those top 10, the average cost per acre for 1 year, if it was 15 years for 4%, which is kind of turned into McLeod standard on a repair like this, that would be $4.93 an acre.
Okay. All right, any further questions or comments for Connie?
Mr. Chair, I would move on the recommendation of the 15 years
At 4%?
at 4%, 311,584.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Kruger and a second by Schmaltz to set our term at 15 years with a 4% interest rate for the project completed on McLeod County Ditch 13. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair. And Connie, the option does exist for payment up front, as I recall. Is that correct?
Correct. They can pay up front. They could pay, after they're assessed, say next year they want to pay all of the rest of it, that's fine. We don't accept partial payments right up front, but those are our terms. And I should note, this would start in pay year 2025.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we will proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
I believe this concludes the business for McLeod County Ditch 13. The hearing for public for this system.
So move. Second.
We have a motion by Nagel and a second by Kruger to close the hearing for CD 13. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll then move on to McLeod County Ditch 29. Is there a motion to open the hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a motion by Schmaltz, second by Kruger to open the public hearing for McLeod County Ditch 29. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'll then read the language to begin our ditch hearing. I'd like to welcome everyone today to McLeod County Ditch 29 Repair Construction Contract Acceptance Hearing. The purpose of our hearing today is to consider the contract for construction for the repair to McLeod County Ditch 29 is complete in accordance to the plans and specifications pursuant to Minnesota Statute Section 103E.555. The order of business for the hearing will be as follows. First, Mr. Kolb, attorney for the Drainage Authority, will explain the purpose of today's public hearing and give an overview of the public notice requirements. Following Mr. Kolb, our staff will review the notices given for today's hearing, and finally, our engineer, which I believe Mr. Kolb will present that report from Houston Engineering, will give a presentation on the engineer report for CD29 repair construction contract. After the initial presentations, I will open the hearing for public comment. The board would like to hear your comments and concerns regarding whether the contract for construction of the repair has been completed in accordance with the plans and specifications approved by the Drainage Authority. If you would like to make a comment, first address the chair, and I will recognize you to speak. Please state your name and address for the record. If you have a specific question concerning the Drainage Authority's final acceptance of the contract, we may ask our staff, engineer, or legal counsel to respond. Following the public comment portion of the hearing, the board will deliberate and take action. Would any of the board members wish to offer any remarks before we begin?
And none.
Seeing none, all right, Mr. Kolb.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and this will seem very repetitive for members of the public, and I appreciate your patience. We do this to ensure we don't make any mistakes in the proceedings that would undermine the integrity of our process. So you might hear some of the exact same language as we just read. So again, members of the board, members of the public, upon completion of the work specified in any contract for repair or improvement of a drainage system or original construction, the board has to hold a hearing to accept the work and consider any additional damage claims. Additional damages might be based on a delay in the work interfering with crop production or an owner's use of property over a period for which damages were not originally awarded. Additional damages might be based on the contractor's departure from construction specifications or occupation or disturbance of areas beyond the limits of construction specified in the construction plans. Work within the area contemplated and included in the proceedings establishing the original construction, including removal of trees within the original construction footprint, is not subject to additional damage consideration. At the hearing, the board has to consider the engineer's report of contract completion and receive comments and evidence from landowners regarding completion of the work and additional claims. The board may by order direct payment of the balance due if it determines that the contractor has been completed in accordance with the plans and specifications. And if good cause is shown, the Drainage Authority may waive any part of liquidated damages occurring under the contract. At the conclusion of testimony, I will run through a series of questions with the board that will help the board in refining its decision. If any changes need to be made, I do note, as with the prior drainage system, there is a draft order in your packet for consideration with a modification to paragraph 4 in what you have to remove some repetitive language. Unless there are any questions of me, staff will review the notices given for the hearing today.
The notice requirements of the December 17th, 2024 public hearing were met by 3 consecutive publications in the McLeod County Chronicle on November 29th, December 6th, and 13th. In addition, a printed copy was posted near the front door of the McLeod County Courthouse and the McLeod County Government Center, and individual notices were mailed to all benefited landowners impacted by the repair. Please also note for the drainage record that as of this morning, there were no written comments received through the mail or via email.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, this was a contract also awarded to Ewart Brothers. There have been 4 prior payments, and under consideration today is the closeout of the contract and the award and the authorization of payment number 5 and the release of any retention on the contract. It's important to note that for this particular project, there were some subcontractors, Ewart Brothers as the prime, Excavating as a subcontractor, and Southern Minnesota Erosion Control also as a subcontractor. The engineer does note, and the documents have been provided by the prime contractor, that all subcontractors have been paid and all liens have been waived with regard to the work performed. There was a change order that was issued in October of 2023 that allowed some minor changes in pipe lengths for side inlets and adjacent field crossings. There was a change order number 2 in July of 2020, also in 2023, that allowed some changes to private tile stabilization, and then finally a change order number 3 that remedied some variations from the original project quantities to construction quantities. The final contract amount after all changes was $332,198.85. The original contract was $458,135. Change order 3 actually reduced the contract by $134,000 because some of the work anticipated did not have to be completed. The engineer has concluded that the work was performed in accordance with the contract schedule with no deviations from the limits of construction, and that all work as observed, and this observation took place both by your engineer's representative and Mr. Lesky, your county drainage inspector, that all that work was done and completed according to the plans and specifications. The engineer indicated no additional damages owing for the work because all of the work was done within the limits of construction. And finally, the engineer recommends release of the retention and a final payment of $26,733.43. Unless the board has any questions of me, I believe you can proceed to the public comment portion of the hearing.
Okay. Any questions at all before we begin? Okay, we'll then call for public comment. If you are here from County Ditch 29 and you have any questions or concerns, now is definitely the time to come to the microphone so we can get those addressed. Once we do finalize this with an acceptance motion, it's too late to address concerns. So please, if you have any questions or comments, now is the time.
Good morning, Commissioners. Harlan Matthews is my name. I'm in Section 32, Virgin Township. My water going into Ditch 29, also 13. And my concern was the change order for repairing the private tile outlets into our county ditch system. Now, the reason I'm concerned about that is because I spent a lot of my own money repairing mine and to solve the problem, and a lot of other farmers that I know in this Ditch 29, I think it's like 3 times it's been repaired or maintained in the last 10 years. And there's been some damages done to the culverts and in the beginning by other contractors, and they were never repaired. And they should have done it back then, but it didn't happen. And now we all got to pay for it. But my biggest beef was I paid for my own. I know other farmers have paid for their own. And now it seems like the guys that don't know where their culverts even come out into the ditch, now we all have to cover that. And my concern is also that with all the other ditches that are getting done in the county and actually the whole state, is this a precedent that has been accepted in all the other ditch systems also, where if you have your own private tile line going in, you don't have to maintain it anymore because the system will? That's about all I have. But like on CD or JD1, were those all repaired, and 8, all these other ones? I mean, it's, I don't know, it's like $75,000 more according to the contractor I talked to. But if we got to do it, we got to do it. But my point was, it's a can of worms, I guess, for you guys. And that's all I can think of right now, gentlemen. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, before Mr. Matthews leaves, could I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Mr. Matthews? I'm sorry, could I ask you a question before you go back to your seat? I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I do appreciate your comment. I think it's really important that the board hear this because, as you know and as you pointed out, they're looking at additional repairs of public drainage systems. So I just want to make sure that your comments are related to past activities and not the activities current on this. You're not alleging that the contractor failed to repair something on your land or that caused you damage during this contract period. It seems like you're alleging something from prior periods and trying to alert the board to a condition that they might need to be aware of as they move forward. Is that correct?
Yeah. In part, I was down by my outlet, which is on the 13, but if I look directly maybe 200 feet to the east, there was a culvert that I wouldn't say was probably older than me, and the bottom was gone. I mean, yes, something has to be done with that, and will the landowner, farmer, or landlord take care of that? Probably not. And now with this, they will be looking at the repair systems to fix it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Matthews. That helps me. I just want to make sure that this isn't an issue that the board has to consider related to final payment to Ewert for the work that they performed.
I mean, I know, I get it. We got to get this stuff fixed every now and then. I do not agree with like lowering all the culverts I'm on the township board too, and I don't really agree with what we had to do there. But with the exceeding costs on that whole business, I learned a lot. But I don't know, whatever you think. Are you guys doing the other ditches too with the private outlets?
Mr. Chair.
Or is that a ditch system by ditch system?
Go ahead, Mr. Kruger.
I know a little about this, and again, from what I recall, don't quote me verbatim, but we work on them kind of system by system. If we're still obligated to make the ditch work, and we've kind of, if history, if I can remember history right, we've passed some and then had to go back and fix them, and the ditch system still pays, I mean, regardless, and we've kind of, and I can't remember exactly on the, if we addressed it on the 29 or 13 meeting, but we've just kind of went ahead and said fix them. And because it's not only, I understand your dilemma, some fix them, some don't, but at the end of the day, we have to, if it washes out, washes back in, we're still, or the system is still responsible for that repair. And I don't know if Mr. Kolb can say it a little better than me. I mean, this is kind of a problem that goes on with a lot of systems. And I'm speaking for, from some of the experiences I have, this is the best way to handle it. I mean, there's no way to force people to pay other than through the county attorney or adding a lot more costs, and we are mandated to keep them in shape, and in the long run, I believe it's efficient, more efficient than having to go back in and do them, because that's what we end up doing.
Well, my concern was too, like I said, I paid for my own, and maybe with these other guys that have not maintained theirs, maybe that should have been itemized onto their taxes instead of everyone.
I think we've had that discussion. I don't know why we didn't go with that route. I'm sorry right now that I don't remember why we thought about throwing a levy, or lack of a better word, or an added cost onto those landowners, and I don't know exactly how that works. Either Ryan or John would have to say. There was a reason we didn't go that route, and I can't remember what it was.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Kruger. So it is standard practice for most drainage authorities across the state when they're performing maintenance on open ditch systems to address the private tile outlets to those ditch systems as a cost of the project, the cost of the work. And the reason for that, there's really there's a number of different reasons for that. One is you already have the contractor in place, and at the time of construction, that contractor is going to get a better unit price for those materials, and they're already disturbing that ditch bank. So that's kind of number one, is a cost analysis. The second reason is that over the course of time, landowners will add additional outlets to the drainage system, and often those aren't done in the best way, especially if the drainage authority doesn't have some level of rule or an ordinance or something adopted at the county level that requires that those connections be made to a certain standard. So a stabilized outfall, some erosion control, those sorts of things. And so many times those outlets don't get installed in the best way, and they actually have the potential of causing damage to the ditch and actually increasing overall costs for future maintenance. And then the last reason has to do with the complexity of and the cost involved in going out and assessing the condition of each individual private landowner's outfall, and then going through a process to basically cite them with a condition that's damaging to the ditch and try to enforce correction of that. And then once again, if you're enforcing individual correction of that, that's added cost to the system. So most drainage systems on that basis, most drainage authorities on that basis, will just include this as a cost of the construction. It is possible, if the board wants to look at an alternative, that we can, but as to this particular repair, the board was implementing what I think is its standard policy, which is, like most counties, that it would include this as a cost of the repair. But given Mr. Matthews' comments, which are certainly valid, the board may want to look at an alternative to that. We just have to, again, evaluate what are the costs and benefits of doing that.
Mr. Chair. Go ahead. And I value Mr. Matthews' opinion as well, and I know he's active and he's at most of the meetings, and I can't swear to it, but I thought we talked about it at one of the hearings, and I have quite a few ditch hearings that I go to, but I know it's came up and kind of, whether it was done by vote or consensus, it was brought up at the hearings and usually decided to go ahead and fix them all, so we don't have to go, we don't have to come back or cause erosion that causes a lot more expense, and I can't swear to that, but I know I'll work with our staff to see what else we can do, but in the long run, that's what's been the best, because you start opening a washout and start sloughing, I mean, then it comes back to the integrity of the ditch and the system, so I do understand what you're talking about, though, and it's happened on some of the systems that I am actually on myself, so.
Well, thank you very much, board. And I told Ed, leave mine alone. Don't touch mine. I will like it the way it is. It hasn't washed out in 20 years. I've owned a farm for 30. So, and before that it was every year, an annual occurrence. And I don't know how many tons of dirt got washed in because of that one, but it's solved now. And I told him, don't touch it. Leave it alone. So, and he did.
It's usually remarked at the hearings that, people go and mark their culverts and discuss them with the contractors as they go, and in most cases they do, but not with a lot of the absentee landowners anymore, or people, some never look. I mean, they never go look, and we kind of have to do it, the best of our ability when we go through them, but I wish I had a better answer for you, but I don't.
Go ahead. Mr. Chair? Yes. And Mr. Matthews, you brought up the comment about JD1 and our plans for JD1. I don't want to go into that today because we want to be specific about dealing with CD 13 and 29. But yes, we are doing a lot of systems. And yes, I believe that we are following the same criteria as we look at these systems. And I just wanted to make sure I was addressing your concern and comment on JD1 that you brought up this morning. Thanks for coming to the podium and expressing your concerns to us today.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your
Thanks,
time.
Harlan.
Thanks, everyone, for your time.
Anyone else wish to approach the board with any questions or concerns on McLeod Ditch 29? I think we can proceed, Mr. Colton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I would like to just take a moment. I think the board has basically done this, but Mr. Matthews is a good example of a conscientious landowner on a drainage system that's kind of maintaining his, and that actually benefits all of his neighbors. So any of you that are in the audience that know that Mr. Matthews is actually saving you money by taking care of his outlets to the ditch system, I think thanks are appropriate for that. Mr. Chairman and members of the board, then based on that, if we're done with public comment, I'll just ask the board a few questions. Again, is there any objection to a finding that the construction has been substantially completed in conformance with the contract for construction? No objection. Has any objection to a finding that the project construction has been completed within the time specified in the contract or as modified by change order? No objection. Is there any objection to a finding that the work has been performed and that there are no additional damages being claimed in the proceedings? And is there any objection to a finding that the contractor is entitled to an award of final payment, including release of retainage? Seeing none, rather than go through all of the paragraphs in the findings, which are basically identical to the ones we considered for County Ditch 13, but for the designation of the ditch system, the order would state that the contract for the repair of County Ditch 29 is accepted as complete, that any retainage under the contract will be released to the contractor upon proof of release of all liens of contractors or materialmen related to the project, that nothing in the order relieves the contractor of its warranty obligation under the construction contract, and that the McLeod County Auditor Treasurer is ordered to pay the balance due on the contract and the costs of the repair as provided by statutes chapter 103E. If there's no objection to the findings and order, I would request that the board entertain a motion and a second to adopt them as presented.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I will move adoption of CD 29 findings and order accepting the contract as specified by Attorney Cole this morning.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Schmalz and a second by Kruger to adopt the acceptance order as presented by staff at today's hearing. Is there any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, we will proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Connie Kurtzweg.
Hi. So CD 29's estimate approved at the June 20th, 23, meeting was $458,135. The final contract amount was $332,199, a difference of $125,936, or 27.49% less, which is a good news for this system. So CD 29, similar to CD 13, does also have a current rolling assessment, a 10-year assessment. They have a remaining balance. Oh, that assessment was $110,906. They have a remaining balance of $19,623. So they have already paid 82.31% of that assessment. Also good news for the system and those landowners. And thank you again to those landowners and commend them for their financial responsibility. We did a cost analysis, staff did, on CD 29 as well. There are some, what I would say, heavy hitters on this system who own a lot of the land. And if we were to use 15 years at 4%, which I believe is McLeod standard, but also neighboring standards, the 15-year anyway, the average of the top 10 would be $16.67 an acre. So that's quite a bit more than CD 13, but like I said, they are some heavy hitters on this system. Again, they have the option to prepay all, and any year they could prepay, no partial payments. These would go on for pay year 2025. Are there any questions for me?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would, hearing no comments from the audience or the landowners, I would move that we accept the auditor's recommendation of 15 years at 4% for the $332,199.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Kruger and a second by Nagel to accept for terms on McLeod County Ditch number 29, 15-year terms and 4% interest rate. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Before I decide how to vote on this motion, Connie, a question about the charge at the 15-year rate. Is it an option for us to do a 20-year? I know we're going outside of our typical situations. Is that an option in this system as well?
It is an option. I didn't run that scenario as far as how much it would be per acre, but I mean, you would just know it would be less, but they'll pay interest, of course.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
I got no correspondence or no calls on this particular system. And that obviously is an option to go to 20 years. In most discussions in the other meetings that I've been to, for the reason of the interest and the added years, most people are, that is enough, it's enough money, I understand that, but most of them don't like to go that route.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Does that conclude our business for Ditch 29? Mr. Gold?
Mr. Chair, would you indulge me in 2 more items?
Absolutely.
First item is, I'll just let you know that the orders will be provided to your auditor treasurer staff for your signature today yet. And then the second item is, I'd like to just congratulate and thank Commissioner Luthens for his service upon, I think this may be being his last meeting, so thank you for that, Commissioner. And then finally, every time I come here, you're also finely dressed. I feel underdressed, so I appreciate you brightening my day by looking so fine today. So thank you for that. Otherwise, we are completed with the CD 29 hearing. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for attending our meeting today, Mr. Gold.
Mr. Chair, before you conclude,
Yes.
I want to make a comment about the transparency that we express going through these proceedings. It's a long process. We try to be totally transparent with what we're doing. We're following state statute as a guide. I think I should give a congratulations to staff and contractor. When we come in and let's say if we can save $125,000, $126,000 on a system repair, that's a good thing. We're not out there, just trying to do the work and collect the money. We're out there to do the best job possible for the fewest amount of dollars invested. So I just wanted to make that comment, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll be looking for a motion to adjourn our public hearing for McLeod Ditch 29.
So moved.
We have a motion by Schmalz and a second by Luthens to adjourn our public hearing. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. We do have quite a ways to go with our agenda today. I think there are some people out there that were just here for the ditch hearing. Let's call a 5-minute recess, and then we'll reconvene for the remainder of our meeting agenda.
If we get a lot of snow and a big snowthaw, then you know how it is. It really backs up and, the private ditch that likes to fill up. You got another meeting coming up? Okay, take care.
Okay, I believe we have everyone back after our brief recess. So we will go back to our regular planned agenda, beginning with our public hearing for the McLeod County fee schedule. I will ask for a motion to open our public hearing for the fee schedule.
And second.
We have a motion by Nagel and a second by Kruger to open our public hearing for the McLeod County fee schedule for 2025. Is there any discussion on that? Then we will proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Hearing open. Stefan.
Yes, thank you, Commissioners. So this is, we're considering approving the 2025 McLeod County fee schedule. Public hearing to discuss the fee schedule was advertised in McLeod County Chronicle on November 29th, December 6th, and December 13th, 2024. The board reviewed changes requested by departments at the November 5th, 2024 and November 19th, 2024 workshops. I want to pause quick there just to notify you all that since we reviewed those changes, there has been one more requested change, and you maybe will be familiar with this when we were discussing jail boarding fees. It was mentioned that the Sheriff's Office had done some research, and we were a little bit behind on that. So Sheriff Langenfeld requested that we raise that fee as well from $60 to $75 to match our neighbors. So besides that, there have not been any other changes to the draft fee schedule from what you were given earlier. And once approved, the 2025 McLeod County fee schedule will go into effect on January 1st, 2025.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Stefan, am I going to find that change in here?
It's in there.
It is in there, yes, sir.
Page 11.
Those copies were old. I did handwrite it in there for you.
Thank you. I got it.
Mr. Chair,
Good.
with the information and the process that we went through, including the public hearings, thank you, Stefan, for facilitating this. I would move to adopt the 2025 fee schedule.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Nagel and a second by Kruger to accept the McLeod County 2025 fee schedule. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
do we have our new building in here?
The new building at the fairgrounds is included within the rentals.
All right.
Thank you for that question. For anyone watching online wondering what we're talking about, this is a 13-page document, printed front and back, of all of the different services that are covered from McLeod County, ranging from, as Commissioner Luthens has brought up, rental of things at the fairgrounds, when you drop things off at our HHW facility, different things for the highway department, asking for printing to be done, so forth. It's all covered within this to make sure that everyone is treated fairly when they request services from the county. So, are there any further comments or questions on the McLeod County fee schedule?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
This is a public hearing. I don't know if anyone from the public would be
Yes,
interested.
you are correct. Good point. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to address the board today? Anyone? Okay, good point. Back to discussion on the board. Anyone have any further discussion? We do have a motion to accept. Seeing there's any further discussion, we'll then proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries.
Move to close the hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Nagel and a second by Kruger to close their public hearing. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. The hearing is closed. Back to environmental. Thank you, Stefan.
Thank you.
Into our environmental services, Mark Teleski.
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Morning.
Two items for your consideration this morning. Item A is to consider approving a one-lot final plat for the purpose of a building eligibility to be known as Nygaard Lot for property owner Jeffrey Nygaard. The lot is described as 2.22 acres of the northeast quarter of Section 14 in Hutchinson Township. The McLeod County Planning Commission recommended approval at its October 23rd, 2024 meeting with the condition that the Hutchinson Township Board hear this request and make a recommendation. The Hutchinson Township Board unanimously recommended approval at its November 14th, 2024 meeting. The reason for a little bit different process on this with the township is when the applicant contacted the township, they had already heard or had their meeting. It was moved up. He wasn't aware of that, so Planning Commission had everything in order that they needed. They recommended approval for that, but they did want the township to hear this request, so they made sure that it was sent there prior to it coming to you. So with that being said, I'll turn it back to the board.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I'm embarrassed, but we've kind of seen this in different pieces, right? I mean, so this has come up a few times in a few different.
So there was a-
So is there a significant left turn that's going on here? It doesn't feel like it, but I just want to make sure.
No, so I think what you're referring to is the applicant had made an application a year prior,
Yeah.
and that application was denied
Yeah.
at the preliminary plat process due to the fact that they didn't consider, or there was consideration that it was not hard to farm the 2.22 acres. Mr. Nygaard then proceeded to plant trees and let it go into grass. Came back with a request. He could not come back with a request for 6 months unless the request had changed. So he felt that there was a change, came back, made application again for this plat, and that brings us to where we are today.
Very good.
Okay. All right. Questions, anyone?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
There's a lot to go over and calculate with this one, but I do and have had conversations with the neighbors, and while there's differing opinions on how this all happened, but I would move to approve.
I'd second it.
Okay, we do have a motion by Nagel and a second by Kruger to consider approving a one-lot final plat for the purpose of building eligibility to be known as Nygaard Lot for property owner Jeffrey Nygaard. Is there any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, we will proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries.
Item B is a request from Garrett Luthens Family LLC, Skyview Dairy, to approve conditional use permit 24-C1 for the purpose of a feedlot expansion from 2,540 animal units to 3,520 animal units, constructing a new total confinement barn a milking parlor, holding area, and constructing and installing a manure tank digester. This property is located at 18503 Nickel Avenue, Hutchinson, Minnesota, located in Section 3, Hassan Valley Township. The Hutchinson Area Joint Planning Committee heard this request to increase animal units at its March 20th, 2024 regular meeting. A motion was made to table it until June 20th, 2024, with a recommendation to the County Board of Commissioners to require a third-party consultant review of the submitted voluntary discretionary EAW environmental assessment worksheet. That meeting was held April 16th, 2024. The MPCA issued the operating permit increase of animal units and facility expansion on April 25th, 2023. So it does say 2024 in the agenda, but the MPCA did issue their operating permit prior to the applicant's application for a conditional use permit. Therefore, the MPCA cannot be the reviewer of the EAW. The reason the MPCA issues the operating permit is this feedlot is over 1,000 animal units, so it's considered a CAFO. And the MPCA, the state, takes the lead in regards to operating permitting of this facility. The Hutchinson Joint Planning Board heard this request at its November 20th, 2024 regular meeting and recommended approval with the following conditions. Number one, the current owner shall maintain compliance with Minnesota Rules 7080 through 7083 and all appendages. Minnesota Rule 7080 through 7083 does govern feedlots in its operation. Number two, the current owner shall submit the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency inspection to the McLeod County Environmental Service Office within 30 days of receipt. Number three, all deceased animals shall be disposed of per the current owner's Minnesota Pollution Control Agency registration. Number four, the current owner shall keep on file a current manure management plan with McLeod County Environmental Services. Number five, the current owner shall annually maintain the water use permit with the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources involving the well interference program. Number six, all manure pumped across the road shall be done through a culvert. Number seven, there shall be no manure spreading on frozen soil. All manure spread shall be incorporated within 24 hours per agronomic rates allowed per Minnesota Rule 7080 through 7083. And number eight, no future expansion of animal units is allowed without a new environmental assessment worksheet review per the Minnesota statutory process. And the last item I have, that Hutch Joint Planning met on November 20th, and I did receive a letter, which is why it's not in the packet, but I do need to read it for the record. It is a letter that we received, our office received on November 22nd, 2024, McLeod County Board, 520 Chandler Avenue North, Glencoe, Minnesota 55336. The reason, expansion of Skyview Dairy, and I will read it as stated. Honorable Commissioners, we are writing in reference to the proposed expansion of Skyview Dairy. We are hereby requesting as a condition of permitting the expansion of Skyview Dairy that no manure ever be applied west of Highway 22. The area west of Highway 22 owned by Skyview Dairy borders Hutchinson's Industrial Park. We are extremely concerned that strong odors from manure application will spread into and around manufacturing companies in the area. In addition to the adverse impact on existing employers, we're concerned this would jeopardize our ability to market industrial park sites to new employers. They would likely be very reluctant to expand in an area regularly subject to unpleasant odors. Skyview Dairy is the largest feedlot in the county, and it's directly adjacent to the largest city in the county. The city of Hutchinson by itself makes up 40% of McLeod County's economy. The Hutchinson's Economic Development Authority is requesting that due consideration be given to protecting Hutchinson's potential for continued economic growth. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Mike McGraw, EDA Board President, and Miles Sepult, Economic Development Director. So with that being said, I'll turn it back to the board if there's any questions from me.
Okay, I think first Commissioner Luthens has asked. Yes, thank you, Commissioner. Just for the record, we do need to note that Commissioner Darrell Luthens has temporarily stepped down, excuse me, for this business item. Any questions for Mark before we begin? I'll give some thoughts. I am our delegate on the Joint Planning Board, and I did not vote that night during the meeting. It was pointed out that I did not have to, so I can express views here without having to vote on them there. I had mentioned that evening that I'm not in favor of a long list of conditions that make it more work for our staff to watch. We do not have enough staff to continuously monitor, an extra long list of conditions. We did ask Skyview Dairy to go through the EAW, and they completed that, and I think that is a document that provides perhaps some ease to a lot of the questions we hear about how is that really going to work with that many animals next to the city of Hutchinson, and the answer is it's going to work. So I'm not in favor of making a more of a extensive list than we already have, but there have been some follow-up questions as to the one item that was taken out, and it was addressed within the letter from the Hutchinson EDA about the manure spreading. Boy, I'm getting a frog in my throat this morning. Too much talking, I guess. But the letter from the EDA about the manure spreading west of 22, and that is perhaps an item that we can talk about here. And that is really, at this point, the only extra item that I would personally like to see added to the list of conditions that they already have. On top of that, I'm in favor of this. I think it'll work. I think Skyview Dairy has been in operation for enough years and a part of our community that they know that there are difficulties and challenges with their proximity, but they seem to be able to make it work. So, but there is that one item I think we need to discuss a little bit. So are there any thoughts? Holy cow. Any other thoughts from the board?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Review of the letter that you read to us, Mark. They said manure application west of Highway 22. West of Highway 22 could mean miles and miles west of Highway 22, in my opinion. Can we be more specific about the request, meaning west of Highway 22?
Yeah, the area, the second paragraph of the letter states the area west of Highway 22 owned by Skyview Dairy. So there is approximately, I'll get it wrong, Shane or Daryl could probably help with that. It's north of 5th Avenue, so there's an area there, it's a 38.5 acre piece, and then there's a balance, and the reason for the balance is because it's two separate sections. Highway 22 was not built on a section line, so there's two parcels in there that have recently been purchased. Again, I don't know exactly what the number is there. I'm going to say roughly around 70 acres that sits south of Loose Line Trail, north of 5th Avenue, and west of Highway 22 that would abut the City of Hutchinson's Industrial Park.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chair, I was curious on the acres and actually would like to hear from a representative from Luthen's. Is this a hardship? I was wondering myself on how many acres this included, and I got that answer, but now is that a hardship, or is that something that you're willing to, rather than go through a lot of back and forth, is that something that you'd be willing to add to a condition?
Good evening, Commissioner. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm not in favor of this condition being added. I did state that at our joint planning meeting. This is more about the principle of what's happening. And I did not get a very clear answer from the city or the EDA. We have been in communication well over 3 years, not just a year. So I'm not following this land and subject that's supposed to be owned by Skyview, that Skyview cannot fertilize it. Also, in the last 2 decades that we've been farming near the city, we have been applying manure. And on this land and subject has got manure prior. So I'm not quite following what the concerns are going to be. That was never addressed. I would have been waiting for a conversation if this is an issue instead of waiting till the last hour to bring this up. It's not so much hardship, it's more of what else is going to happen throughout the rest of the county if one entity can encourage this action. What happens around the rest of Hutchinson for other farmers? If it's just one parcel, and the question I've laid out is, what about their municipality spreading? South side, where they're trying to develop too. So it's, to answer your question, it's the principle.
Just an answer, I kind of agree. I mean, if you want, there should be an ordinance that nobody could spread, then not just one, if you're not gonna have manure. Is that what you're trying to tell me as well? And, because there's quite a bit of land to the north there, or to the south, that that somebody could theoretically spread manure there. That wouldn't include what we're trying to get at here.
It's correct. This is the principle of one entity requesting to go after one particular person. Is this going to be said about our farmer to the north of the city? Can we verify their farming practices are not right on the edge of the city? We inject the manure. There is no smell for more than one day when we're done. And there has not been a complaint in 20 years since we've been right there. So I'm just curious of where this is going to start and stop. If we allow this one to happen, do other cities pick up on it in the county? And now we set a precedence. You're too close to our development. We can't let you spread that fertilizer. Then what happens to the next industry that moves in that creates a little bit of a smell, then an eyesore? So that's why I'm pushing back on this, is where's the principle in this? How is it going to inhibit their development?
Mark, sorry, Garrett.
I'm good.
Is there an ordinance? Does the city of Hutch have an ordinance regarding the application within, forgive me for butchering this, but the application within
The little
X
bit,
number of feet,
a little
miles,
bit
whatever?
I've been involved with the city in regards to application, because there has been some land that is farmed within the city boundary. And there was manure that had been applied to that, and the city does not allow for manure application on any city parcel.
So that's within the city.
It's within the city.
So what is there?
The county feedlot ordinance requires a 100-foot setback from a city boundary for any manure application that is incorporated. 500 feet if it's unincorporated.
And we're not discussing, we're fully aware of that would be enforced or be part of the program.
Yeah, regardless of if that condition or concern is met by the board, the 100 foot would still have to be met from any city municipal boundary.
Okay.
But I don't think that's in question right now, is it?
No, I don't think so either, but it's good information.
No, I agree. Because Mr. Chair, I'm thinking out loud, so I'm just gonna ask the questions, because in my mind, I don't live there, but I've been around here my whole life. Just to the south of there's some big acreage. Technically, they could sell their manure and go put it in there, even if we sign that on their property. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, is what I'm getting at. If they wanna stop the smell of manure, and I'm not picking on it, if that's what they wanna do, they almost have to draw a ring around, this is where you can and can't do it. I mean, it shouldn't be subject to one person or one business.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Go ahead.
In regards to the discussion at joint planning about that potential condition, the applicant is going through a conditional use permit due to the intensification of the use. So you are correct, Commissioner Kruger. If you don't have the need or the requirement by ordinance to have to go through a conditional use permit, then you have to follow the performance standards that we have already adopted as a county in the feedlot ordinance. But once you intensify a use and there's a requirement for a conditional use permit, it allows for the board to mitigate with conditions if they feel necessary, if there's an adverse impact. So I hope that answers, again, I'm not advocating for or against that particular condition. I'm just stating that the reason why that condition is, was considered for this particular conditional use permit and not others is strictly because there's a need for a conditional use permit, the size and the intensification of the use. It would be the same as if you had a business that, had 100 employees, maybe operating 24 hours a day, that the board may then allow for screening or berming or something to mitigate possible noise, glare, fumes, that type of thing. So it's the same concept.
Mr. Chair, let me ask this question, and I'm just trying, it's blurred to me. It's not very clear, in my opinion. So now, and I'm gonna keep using the same example I did to the south. I know there's a big farmer runs a big chunk of land in there. If they wanna buy turkey or chicken manure and put it in there, can they do it?
Right now, the answer is yes.
So I don't.
And if they meet the standards of the ordinance, they can do that.
Are there retention, I'm trying to figure out a map, are there retention ponds near there?
There's
Bordering there?
There's 3 of them that would be between the field, the tillable field, and the industrial park. There's a series of 3 ponds. Where you're manufacturing on 5th Avenue, directly to the east of them, there's 2 separate ponds. Then the cul-de-sac that runs in, and I apologize for not knowing the street name. Commissioner Nagel, you may. But there's a cul-de-sac back there.
It's actually escaping me too, and it's kind of embarrassing.
There you go. There's a cul-de-sac to the north of that, or there's a pond to the north of that
Is
cul-de-sac.
there were those concerns brought up in joint planning? Is there anything that needs to be, I'm assuming that was vetted through the process, or?
To my
like
knowledge.
Tiles, inlets, outlets, all that good stuff that you guys all know more about than anybody?
I do not know where those tile inlets are, those intakes are. So again, we do have standards in the ordinance wherever those intakes are, that you have to be so far from those when you spread and you incorporate. And that really is an honor system unless there's a violation to the owner operator that they're abiding by those setbacks. But to answer that question directly, I do not know where they are. And was it discussed at joint planning? It was, but briefly in regards to the fact that there are ponds that are there.
Okay, and I just want to be clear, I am in favor of this. I just want to work through this particular issue and get everybody what they need. And thank you for the work the family did regarding the environmental piece. That was very important to me, and I think to all of us. So, yeah, if we can just work through this piece, then we can move on.
Mr. Chair. But again, I hope I'm not repeating myself, but I don't have a problem with them requesting not having a smell or manure, or because it's manure we're speaking of today, but that rule, if that's an ordinance or a rule, or that has to be a little bit more directed, in my opinion, to what they want, not just to focus on one person. That's just how I feel about it. I mean, first of all, the smell doesn't stop at 22. If wind's right, it blows over. It don't matter. But I still am really boggled by the whole ring around the Hutchinson area. I appreciate their concern. I mean, I get calls right here from whether it's Seneca or the beef farm out here. I mean, it smells like money to me. But that's what I think of it, but they have to be a little bit more specific, in my opinion.
Mr. Chair, if I may, the only comment I'll make to that is I concur that the smell doesn't stop at 200 feet, 500 feet, 1,000 feet. So when ordinances were drafted and approved, and in our situation that was March 23rd of 1998, they had to choose a number. And they chose that number to try to be consistent with the quarter section boundaries, which is why the minimum setback for a feedlot to a house is a quarter mile, 1320. So again, does that number magically dispel any smell or odor that would come from that? The answer is no. But it was really a number that had to be used for the purpose of advancing an application.
And I'll accept that. I mean, and I'm not picking on you directly. I'm picking out, they're asking us to put a regulation on a request for one person.
Commissioner Kruger, I appreciate that. I don't feel picked on.
No, I mean, you're trying to explain it, and I think I understand it perfectly. And I was kind of tongue in cheek when I said the smell doesn't stop. It just, that's something you live with. But the point is, they can't, I'm having trouble with them picking out 38.5 acres. Because you answered my question when you said, if I own the farm down to the south, can I buy turkey manure, chicken manure? If I follow our ordinances in the county, I can spread it there. And I don't see a difference.
So that is correct. The ordinance does allow that to happen. The letter that was written, I would, again, I don't know. I have not spoke to anybody from the Hutchinson EDA. It was a letter that was forwarded to me. Just, I'm going to, use my experience in the office for 25 years. I would assume the reason they did that is strictly proximity. Because the industrial park abuts a field owned by the entity. But you're absolutely correct, in the letter, and I certainly can make that available for you if you want to see that. That letter states ownership. It does not state, leased land or rented land or another entity.
I represent the whole county, not just parts of it or certain industries. I understand what they're doing, but it's pretty loosely done in my opinion. I mean, if they want, I don't disagree of wanting that. I don't know what I agree with on the premise of it, but however, they have the right to write it, but I think it's not well thought out.
Okay. Are there any questions or concerns on other points of the CUP that's in front of us? So we do have in front of us the options. We can table if we need more information. We can approve. We can, I believe, send it back to joint planning. Is that an option, Mark, or not with the time?
Yes, the applicants have signed a waiver through the process, which is an indefinite waiver, so I'll defer to our county attorney, but I do believe you have at your disposal any option you want to consider, to approve, to deny, to table, to table and send it back. It's your discretion.
Okay. If we do want to send it back, then please let's do so with a list of questions that committee can look at. So.
Well, I'm just, last comments on it, I just think it was what, I think I said everything. I think, I understand, and I'm not gonna stand here today and judge what should or shouldn't be, but that wasn't, I don't think that was well thought out.
Okay.
And I'd like to see, I mean, it's specific to one person, one business, or family business, whatever, but. And I don't know that at the end of the day that they'll probably do one, and that's fine, but at least it's gonna cover everybody concerned. I don't know how else to put it and stay, because I'm in favor of the permit as well. And I just hate to see 38.5 acres screw up the whole thing. That's all I really have. The rest of that I looked through. It's too bad we have to be so in-depth anymore, but yeah, it all seemed to pass the smell test. I know that's a bad pun, but it's there. Don't shake your head.
Okay. All right, so I'll give us something to work on here. Given some of the comments that we've had over the past few minutes, I'm going to present a motion then to approve, as stated and as in the packet, with the conditions that were sent from the joint planning, the request from Garrett Luthens, Skyview Dairy, to approve the conditional use permit JP 24-C1.
I'll second it, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion by Wright and a second by Schmaltz to approve as presented in the packet. And that is a feedlot expansion from 2,540 animal units to 3,520. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, in that motion, that means as written, so we're going to accept they're not able to spread on the 38
No.
and a half?
No, we're not adding-
That's out.
We're not adding.
That's out. This is as presented from the joint, as it was approved from the joint planning committee,
Okay.
so that is not in there then.
So, Mr. Chair,
And
that
that's
would,
the only piece of it that's not?
Correct.
so,
Okay, I'm good with
so the motion currently, Mr. Chair, if I could clarify, it includes the conditions 1 through 8 that are contained in the packet, but no additional or no other modifications.
You are correct. You're correct. Commissioner Schmalz, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I thank the Luthens family for their patience in working through this process and how difficult it assumingly was. I think that I can vote in favor of the motion. I believe that they've done everything that they were asked to do in submitting the application. When it comes to odor, I think of it like I might not like the odor of an industrial site that already exists coming my direction that you can smell for miles. So I mean, it's a two-way street here as far as the odor issue goes for me. So I mean, I'm not talking about animal odor. I'm talking about odor from an industry that operates within Hutchinson. So so it's not too hard for me to decipher where I stand on the issue, and with that being said, I'll be voting in favor of the conditional use permit as presented today.
Do you have any further comments or questions or discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Luthens, come on up.
Did you call the question then?
We voted, I think.
I must, I remember that time. Okay. No, I'm sorry, I forgot I just noticed I forgot my phone, so my head's up my butt.
Our next item on the agenda will be the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services. Go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I'm Nathan Taylor, Realty Specialist with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. With me is Todd Boonstra. He's Deputy Manager up in Litchfield.
Is your mic on?
I believe so. Is it?
Okay.
It's got to talk right into it.
Sorry. Today we have a habitat easement we're presenting for certification. This is due to a procedural agreement with the Minnesota DNR and Fish and Wildlife, where we bring it to the counties for certification before then going to the State Land Exchange Board. This is a 13-acre habitat easement in Section 3 of Acoma Township, owned by Mark and Betty Schnobik. That would allow haying after July 15th and grazing year-round. The landowner would still retain all access rights, as well as be responsible for any noxious weed control. They would still continue to pay property taxes, things like that. Are there any questions on this?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
I mean, I looked at it of as far as what's in the packet, and I'm a little unclear on, first of all, I think I had it explained to me during the meeting on what the difference is in ownership between this agreement and whether the Fish and Wildlife owned it themselves. I guess I don't understand the process, or I mean, what are we getting at to have Fish and Life management? What are you gonna do with it?
Just maintain it as habitat for wildlife.
Now, is there been, did you check to see if there's any public or private tile going through is there any?
I believe there's a ditch exiting it, but I don't think it's public. It is just private. And there is already an existing wetland easement on it, owned by Fish and Wildlife, on that piece.
So that's already, as far as any private land draining into it, that's all covered in that. And there is no, you've checked, and there is no tile going through there from any of the other farms? No private or public tile?
Not that I'm aware of yet. I don't know if you can answer to that.
Yeah, so the way it works with our wetland easements, since this one currently is under a wetland easement administered through the Fish and Wildlife Service, in this case, we have not identified any existing tile. As part of this process, we do go through and actually do a full review to make sure that there's nothing recorded as a drainage agreement that's in place. If those drainage agreements are in place, essentially we would honor those drainage agreements as pre-existing upon the easement being installed. The way it works on this piece is there is no known drainage in the sense that there is no drain tile that we are aware of. It does not mean that there may not be tile in existence, because oftentimes the neighbors are unaware of what the tile or where their tile currently goes. Now, if in this case, if tile is located on the property, we do often work very closely with the individuals, realizing that the tile is pre-existing to the easement in order to address that. Sometimes it even involves a reroute or even a suggestion of trying to figure out how to do a reroute, realizing that from now on, they would have to try to work with us in order to issue a permit in order to maintain that tile. A lot of individuals choose to do that, try to do a reroute so they don't have to come back to us. That's kind of the next step in order to do that. So in this case, nope, we are unaware of any tile that's on the property. So for this habitat easement to come through, it would be considered as nothing underneath from the property from the west in this case.
So just to answer my question, if this goes through as proposed and a tile pops up, you would work. I'm not worried about draining this parcel. I'm worried about if there's a private or some other property being drained and it's going through there. And I know there's ways to work through that, but I didn't want to close that door.
Yeah, in this situation, actually, the adjoining landowner was the previous individual that accepted the easement. So in this case, we would be very willing to work with him since he was the original individual that took the easement prior to selling it to this individual.
And all the adjoining landowners were notified that this is going to, or is the only notification within this county packet?
The only notification is within the county packet. That's the only notification it is. That's part of going through this process, is a certification process.
Mr. Chair, and during your opening statement, you did mention something about property tax or real estate tax. Can you review that for me again on what the impact might be as far as our tax goes if we were to approve the request as presented?
So the landowner still pays property tax. Fish and Wildlife is not responsible for that in any way. If the county offers a different property tax assessment due to this easement, that's between the landowner and the county assessor's office.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair. Go ahead. I was willing to, I'm still am, I'm a little confused. I was hoping there was a better notification to the landowners. I'm a little, obviously there was none here, but they would have, according to what you just told me, they would have had to look at our board packet to know that we were even taking this up.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
This is obviously in the district that I represent and fully respect the landowners' rights and privileges to do what they wish with their land regarding easements and property rights and all those other things. And the concerns of the tiles are warranted. They've been addressed, but I guess my question is this better off being tabled, maybe organically creating some notification, and if there's any other questions of any of us, those could be addressed. I don't know. I can sense the reluctancy in this for a variety of reasons. So I don't know what anybody else is thinking on that. I'll stop short of a motion to do so because that limits our discussion, but I just wanted to throw that option out there.
So basically, to do a little better job of reviewing, is there the potential of anyone that has a tile line underneath there to get that identified prior to approving them?
Yeah, and really anything else, I guess, that would potentially come up. I don't have those things off the top of my tongue, or tip of my tongue, but, you know, you never know.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Good.
And I don't know how to do that. I'm not opposing it, but I am a little concerned. I know Mr. Snowbrink is well versed in wildlife, drainage, the whole 9 yards, but I would really feel for myself to know that adjoining landowners at least were notified. And I know that's a booger of a job. We do it ourselves. You know, you almost got to go see them person to person. But then that would ease my mind as far as representing the county. According to the maps, I see we have some property not too far away from there, but at any rate, that's my opinion.
Okay.
So how we do that?
I think we just do it like this. Mr. Chair, I move the table to the January 7th meeting.
We do have a motion on the floor to table until January 7th. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay,
But for discussion purposes,
There is no
There
discussion.
isn't.
It's a table.
Oh, on a table.
So we do have a motion to table, a motion from Nagel, second from Kruger to table until January 7th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I believe you understand the question, so if you could work with our administration to schedule to come back on January 7th then, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'd like to see a notification of some kind. I realize I just didn't realize it was a table, but it would be nice that the adjoining landowners to make sure there's no tile or any other something that we're not seeing.
Okay.
All right.
Just
Thank you. Thank you. Next up will be building maintenance. Joe Morgan.
Good morning. Up for consideration approval, a quote from NAC out of Badlands Heights, Minnesota for upgrading the existing building automation control system at a cost of $9,909 with funds from Government Fund 01-113 and Courthouse Funds 01-111 buildings budgets. This project ensures our ability to access the building automation systems as the current software license is obsolete and no longer supported. 60% of the funds for this project would come from the Government Building Center's budget, and the remaining 40% would come from the courthouse building budget. Any questions?
Okay. Any questions for Joe at all? Questions, anyone, or action?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Nagel and a second by Luthens to approve a quote from NAC for a existing building automation control, a system cost of $9,909, funds from our government center and courthouse building projects funds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Employee relations, I'll be covering that part of our agenda today. We do have a number of memorandum of agreements, and when we get to the new positions that are being asked of Barrett Sports and our attorney's office, I'll have them cover the details on those. The first up will be considering approval of the memorandum of agreement for the wage schedule implementation for the McLeod County Licensed Deputy Unit of the Minnesota Public Employees Association Union for the pay period January 1, 2025 through December 31st, 2025.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Nagel and a second by Schmaltz to approve. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The similar language will be to consider approving the MOA for the wage schedule implementation for the McLeod County Public Health Unit of the Minnesota Nurses Association, pay period January 1st through December 31st of 2025.
Move request.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Schmal, second by Kruger to consider approval. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C will be consider approving the MOA for employee-sponsored health insurance contribution and health savings account contribution for the McLeod County unit of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, local number 185 for pay period January 1st through December 31st, 2025.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Nagel and a second by Kruger to approve. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item D, consider approving the MOA for wage schedule implementation with the McLeod County unit of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, local number 185 for pay period January 1st through December 31st, 2025.
Move as requested.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Schmaltz and a second by Nagel to approve. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item E, consider approving a request reviewed by the Personnel Committee to extend one 20-hour per week temporary finance consultant through December 31st, 2025.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Kruger and a second by Nagel to approve. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item F, consider approving a request reviewed by the Personnel Committee to extend a 3-year temporary part-time child protection social workers, to extend 3 temporary part-time child protection social workers through March 31st, 2025.
Move as requested.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Schmaltz and a second by Kruger to approve. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The second item, I'll just read it, then I will give it over to our attorney, Brian Hench. Consider approving a recommendation reviewed by the Personnel Committee to add 1 assistant county attorney to the attorney's office. Mr. Hench, can you just go ahead?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. So this addition, as written in the agenda, is due to the increased caseload in the county attorney's office. This was previously discussed at the October 1 board workshop. It has been budgeted for year 2025. And this was also discussed briefly at a workshop prior to October 1. And there was information I provided to the Personnel Committee that included I'm just going to reference the type of information that was included, and if there's any questions or need for elaboration, I'll be happy to, but I'll try to keep things moving. That include a comparison to to statewide comparison as far as averages and level of attorney need that would suggest justification for this additional position. There was also an analysis of similar sized county comparison, and I could run through some of those if needed. That again shows that our office has historically been staffed at a lower number than some of those similar sized counties. It included a neighboring county comparison, and those are all fine, but really what the basis of this request is based on our office's case numbers in recent years. And that included a 42% increase in our felony filings from year 2022 to 2023, and that was nearly a 20% increase over the 3-year average. So there's been a significant uptick there. There's various specific crime types that have seen significant increases, some 90%, some up to 300% from previous years. We don't have year-end numbers for 2024, but we've seen additional increases in several case areas from 2024, from 2023, which was already at that elevated number. While this would be a new additional permanent position, the board had already previously taken steps to help cover these needs, and that's been by use of a part-time as-needed attorney that had previously served in our office. That's been helping cover some of these duties. It also included, for the majority of 2024, the board's approval of a permanent part-time or a full-time temporary assistant that had been here for most of 2024, but then had moved on at the end of October. So we've tried to staff this in creative ways. It's not necessarily feasible to continue that, to have that temporary attorney disposal. That was kind of a short-lived agreement. That individual is no longer available. And there's still limits to what a temporary or part-time attorney can do. They can't get a regular caseload, so to speak. So the request is for the additional position. It's based on workload increases that we've seen in the last 2 years, and we anticipate to continue. And if you'd have any requests regarding more specific information, I can certainly provide that. The numbers would mirror in a lot of ways what we covered in that October 1st workshop, but I'm happy to answer any questions if I can.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Being lucky enough to serve on personnel, I've worked/waded through this, and I will just say that I am going to support it based on the facts and the information that we have. It's not just pulling out of thin air. And Ryan, thank you for providing that information.
Any other comments, questions for Ryan? Questions, anyone, or action item?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Kruger and a second by Nagel to approve the recommendation of add one assistant county attorney to the attorney's office. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Nothing to add, but I've went through it. I'm on personnel also, and I went through it, and I have worked with Ryan on his caseload, or I haven't worked with him on his caseloads, but I am aware of his caseloads, and obviously he's busy, but it's also, it slips behind, or you start slipping behind, and that's part of the reason I'm gonna vote for this new position.
Okay, any further comments or questions, anyone? Discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Our next item, I'll read it off and then I'll give it to Barrett Sports to explain, be to consider approving a recommendation reviewed by the Personnel Committee to add one Health and Human Services assessor, a community first services and support staff.
Yes, good morning again. This addition to our department is due to an increased caseload and additional service that have been delegated to us per statute by the Minnesota Department of Human Services. This was discussed at an October board workshop and previously at a prior workshop briefly. This position is budgeted for 2025. After this has been brought to board and was not passed, we went back, did some relooking, found that we could potentially increase our services there and recoup some of the money for the services that we're providing. Did look at the unit and the comp time overtime that they're accruing because of this additional workload, and have worked with the personnel committee to bring this back again based on need.
Okay, any
Mr.
further
Chair?
questions for Barrett? Go ahead, Doug.
Now, is this is partly funded as well, right?
This is, yes, mostly funded, to be honest with you.
Right, so
Yep.
I mean, it's kind of neutral to the
It
to
is.
the budget
Yep.
part of it. It's
Yep.
just whatever happens to this program as we move along.
Right, yep.
I doing something I don't like to do. This was brought to us before, and I was not in favor of this, but after more research and after just attending a AMC seminar, we're doing pretty good here. I have all confidence in the world in Barrett and her process. It's just something that it costs a lot of money, and it's just I try to be as aware of what's going on as I can. I feel fiscally it's a good request. And I guess, we'll just watch and see how it goes. I've had some discussions with our director, and she assures me of the need, and some of the questions I had, she had answers with, so I will be supporting this position.
Thank you, Commissioner Kruger. Just to add too, we do have an open position on this team already. And so if this position is approved today, hopefully we could use that current posting and applicant pool to potentially hire 2 people at the same time, which would be, cost effective in my opinion, as far as HR's time, training, and all of that stuff as well, so.
Okay, is there any further questions?
I'll move request, Mr. Chair.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Schmalz and a second by Kruger to approve the recommendation reviewed by the Personnel Committee to add 1 Health and Human Services assessor. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I'm comfortable with supporting the motion. I have had a discussion with a public health supervisor, and as indicated, there is a need. Also indicated that they are not keeping up with the assessments that they're asked to do at this time. So I believe if we want to maintain the services for our McLeod County residents, sometimes we have to step up and make investments in that, and that's how I view this. I thank the Personnel Committee for their work and their patience with this item. Thank Commissioner Kruger as well for his knowledge in the item, and with that statement, I will be supporting the motion.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up will be Public Works, Andrew Engel.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Consider approving the purchase of a John Deere 5120M utility tractor from Midwest Machinery Company of Glencoe, Minnesota at a state contract price of $100,074.44 with funds from the highway equipment budget. This was budgeted in the 2024 budget. Public Works currently runs all John Deere tractors, which streamlines our parts and filters, and then service with our local John Deere dealer has been excellent and timely. So that's why we went the John Deere route once again.
Okay, questions for Andrew, anyone?
I have no questions, but I appreciate, you gave me the long version, and I think that's something that you should be commended for. I don't know if you want to share it, but your initial bid went over budget, and you did some work to find a brand new 1-year model older and brought yourself back close to the budget. And I noticed you didn't include that. Maybe if I did, if it was, I missed it, but you should be commended. I appreciate that you did that.
Yeah, that all goes back to our shop foreman, Joe Proventure. He did an excellent job. We quoted out a couple of brand new models, and they were significantly over budget, and he did some searching and ended up finding a leftover 2023 model that's brand new, comes with all the warranties. Joe did a great job on that.
Thank you. With that, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Kruger and a second by Nagel to approve the purchase of a John Deere 5120M utility tractor from Midwest Machinery at a state contract price of $100,074.44. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
other than one thing, it was a significant amount of money, so that's why I just want to commend them for doing that, because that really helps us all the way around, so thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? We'll then proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Item B, consider approving the trade of a 2008 John Deere 5425 utility tractor with 3,600 hours for $24,000. We looked at selling this outright or auctioning it off, and the trade value was just there without having to pay the commissions and spending the staff time to go through the auction process.
We have a motion by Nagel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Luthens to consider approving the trade of a 2008 John Deere 5425 utility tractor with a value of $24,000. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
All right, the next two items kind of go together. They're both for the GATS facility that was constructed. So please consider approving change order 1 for the GATS facility at a cost reduction of $2,911.20. This is for the reduction in soil correction. When we were putting the plans and specs together for the building, the soil borings indicated that there was potential for the need for a soil correction. Once we got into excavating the building footings, the geotechnical engineer on site determined that we didn't need to complete the soil correction. So this change order is for the labor reduction for not having to do the soil correction.
Mr. Chair, I'll move change order 1 for the GATS facility.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Schmalz, seconded by Nagel, to consider approving change order 1 for the GATS facility at a cost reduction, $2,911.20. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Item D here is consider approving change order 1 to the materials portion of the site grading contract for the GATS facility at a cost reduction of $11,125.65. Please note that this is a correction from what was posted in the board packet. My staff yesterday was going through and dotting all their I's and crossing their T's and found a transposition in between 6 and 9 on the cents there.
Well, thank you for catching that very small detail. So.
Yep. And this is the materials portion, so this isn't for the hauling out the excavation and hauling in granular material.
Okay. Questions, anyone?
Mr. Chair, I'll move change order 1 materials for the GATS facility as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Schmalz and a second by Luthens to consider approving change order 1 for the GATS facility at a cost reduction, a correction from what is printed, at $11,125.65. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
I'll turn it over to John for item E and F.
Item E, consider approving the estimate from TLB Construction LLC out of Hutchinson, Minnesota to repair park shelters, add ceilings, and re-roof some shelters at a total cost of $70,450, and an estimate from Wade's Electric out of Dassel, Minnesota to install lighting and electrical outlets at a total cost of $22,000 with coronavirus relief funds from the American Rescue Plan Act. As outlined in the Parks Plan, the installation of ceilings in the park shelters would help to prevent birds from inhabiting the shelters and would minimize cleaning maintenance. 3 of the park shelters are in need of new roofs. 2 shelters need structural roof repair, and Buffalo Creek Park Shelter needs repairs to its south wall. With the installation of ceilings in the shelters, new lighting would be needed to be installed. Also, the outlets at the shelters should be upgraded to better suit the outdoor environment that they are in. A second estimate was received from Shower & Sons Construction for the repairs, ceilings, and roof installations at a total cost of $83,507. A second estimate for the lighting and outlets was received from Major Electric out of Hutchinson, Minnesota at a total cost of $24,088.
Okay. Yeah, I think just for clarification, we're going to break that item up into 2 different votes. We're going to cover the TLB construction first, and then after we voted, then we'll do the electrical portion of that. So let's just talk about the TLB construction. You do have a second quote. When are they going to begin that?
When would they begin it?
Yep.
I mean, if they could do some of the ceiling work this winter yet, if we don't get snow, if they can get out to the shelters. Otherwise, it would likely start in spring.
In the spring? Okay. Any other questions at all? I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second? We have a second. Motion by Wright, second by Nagel to consider approving the estimate from TLB Construction at a total cost of $70,450. Plans coming for the American Rescue Plan Act. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll just look at the electrical portion from Wade's Electric. Any questions for that?
Second.
We have a motion by Nagel and a second by Luthens to approve the estimate from Wade's Electric at a total cost of $22,000 with funds coming through the American Rescue Plan Act. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Item F, consider approving the purchase of a Condor SC 6500 floor scrubber from Hilliard, Inc. out of Hutchinson, Minnesota at a cost of $51,564.25 with funds from the Fairgrounds capital budget. The Fairgrounds currently has 2 floor scrubbers and one has reached the end of its useful life and is actually no longer in operation. Driving the one functioning scrubber across the Fairgrounds is hard on equipment as it's not meant to traverse uneven terrain. A second scrubber reduces the need for travel since there would be one on each side of the inner ring road, and the need for a new scrubber is amplified with the construction of the new building, which is called Century Hall. In the Fairgrounds capital budget for 2024, $60,000 was allocated towards roof repairs on several buildings. After visiting with a representative of Lester Buildings LLC, it was determined that the roofs are not in need of major repairs at this time. They are recommending to fix the few known areas and not to do a full roof repair. A roof replacement schedule has been created across Fairground buildings over the next 5+ years. It is proposed to use the $60,000 budgeted for the roof repairs on the purchase of the scrubber. A second estimate was received from Nilfisk Incorporated out of Brooklyn Park, Minnesota at a total cost of $54,433.72. And I will just add that the quote that they provided us didn't have tax, so that $52,433.72 was the tax that was not included that would be required to pay.
Any questions at all? I know for myself, when we take a look at how often these buildings are used, how many dollars are invested in maintaining these floors, it just makes sense to purchase equipment that's going to do the job of cleaning and keep those floors in good shape. And with how fast those building rentals day by day turn over and a new group of people come in there and you keep things clean, I think it's a logical decision to get another floor scrubber so they can do their job. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, I would just agree with that, and after talking with the staff, I mean, they caught a couple things here that I know doesn't necessarily pertain to a floor scrubber, but it just shows that they're cognizant of what's going on, and I would agree with the new building and the demand for rental in our buildings. Just a good scrubber is going to be efficient as far as the number of hours they have to spend cleaning, so.
Any other questions? I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Wright, second by Kruger to approve the purchase of a Condor SC 6500 floor scrubber at a cost of $51,564.25, funds from the Fairgrounds capital budget. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up will be our county administrations. We'll review our calendars if we're prepared for that. Commissioner Nagel.
Not much to go over. Probably should keep it short anyway. We've got a long ways to go yet. But just really the personnel issues that were brought up, went through there. And all I'd say is, again, congratulations, Daryl. This job is not for the weak, and you did a good job.
Yeah, I'll keep mine brief as well. The highlight over the past couple weeks for myself, when many of you were at AMC, I had the honor of installing our new McLeod County 4-H Federation officers during their awards banquet on that Sunday afternoon. So we got the new officers installed. They had their county awards attended by a lot of our 4-H families across the county, and it was a very good time to see again, as we noticed here when they come to the board meeting, so many accomplishments that those kids have made. So, Commissioner Kruger.
Keep it brief as well. I attended the AMC conference, which started for me on Sunday because we had MRC, Minnesota Rural Counties. It's basically going through budgets and setting policies that, I mean, they're pretty much set. Now it's going to depend on the legislature to see what happens there, and I'm expecting, you know, some changes in 24 or 25 and 26. And I also had drainage work group we're working there on a new drainage rules, and we have, I think, 2 more weeks to go on a period to present it to the legislature. And congratulations, Darrell.
Thank you, thank you.
I'm sure I'll be seeing you, but this is
Oh, yeah.
probably your last meeting, so.
Thank you, Commissioner Kruger, for your report. Since our last county board meeting, we did have TNT at 6 p.m. that evening as well. And then into last week, I attended AMC starting, as Commissioner Kruger stated, Sunday evening with a rural Minnesota counties meeting, and the winter conference continued through the 9th, 10th, and 11th. And on the 12th, I attended by Zoom our shack meeting. It lasted from 10 o'clock till 1:30 in the afternoon. Again, it was by Zoom. I was glad to be home for that meeting, and I too will congratulate Commissioner Luthens on his service to McLeod County. Thank you very much.
I won't have to counsel you anymore.
Attorney's office, any comments? Oh, sorry, I skipped right over you, Darrell. So, good? Okay. All right, that concludes that portion. We'll now move into item A of our county administration. The next few items are the ones that we typically see in the end of the year and cause a little bit of stress up here. But we'll have Colleen go over our 2025 final McLeod County property tax levy and budget.
Good morning.
Morning.
I am asking today for you to consider approval of the 2025 final tax levy. The preliminary levy was set on September 17th at $29,418,534, which was a 2.5% increase over the 2024 tax levy. At that time, I had brought forward to increase the levy by 3%, but you had made a decision to lower that to 2.5% at that time. As discussed at the Truth in Taxation meeting, the increase in the levy will be allocated to the Road and Bridge Fund to keep this fund in compliance with the McLeod County Fund Balance Policy. Now, you can always lower the levy from this 2.5%, but you can't increase it at this point. It would be my recommendation to leave it as already approved on the September 17th meeting.
Okay, questions, board?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
These are all hard that we're going to come up against, but I'm comfortable with the number that we have, and thanks to the budget committee as they work through that, as being part of that in the past. I know what a daunting task that is. I would move the approval of the levy as presented.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Nagel and a second by Kruger to consider setting the levy at $29,418,534, which is a reflected 2.5% increase over the 2024 tax levy. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'm kind of, these decisions are very hard. As we all know, and we've commented already, I'm glad I attended the AMC conference, although there must have been a bug waiting for me there to kind of tip my last few days here. But what I'm trying to say is, talking to a lot of the other counties, a lot of commissioners, MRC, I'm always waiting for a shoe to drop, but we're doing pretty good. I mean, there's a number of counties in the teens, and all over the board. This comment is going to reflect on quite a bit of the rest of our meeting here, but we're doing pretty good. I'm not just going to pat ourselves on the back, but we've got a good staff, and we hope that it keeps on going. Some of the things are out of our control, and we're trying to serve. I'm very convinced that everybody involved is trying to serve McLeod County the best way they can, and especially after talking to so many different counties, I happy that we're able to do the 2.5.
Okay, very good. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for all the hard work,
Thank you.
Colleen.
Thank you.
The next will be the resolution that will set the 2025 McLeod County Commissioner's salary, per diem, and mileage reimbursement rates. As we go through the list of elected individuals, the dollars that have been assigned to the position are a combination of looking where other counties have been within their pay schedule, and also to see what that importance is within the structure of the different McLeod County departments and so forth. We do have recommendations that have been seen through administration, through budget committee to bring forward. There is a recommendation of setting the 2025 McLeod County Commissioner's salary at $41,200. The per diem will stay the same as it has been, $75 for half day, $125 for full day, and the mileage reimbursement would follow the federal rate. And that would be the numbers. If we approve them, that would be plugged into Resolution 24 CB 32.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Kruger and a second by Nagel to approve Resolution 24 CB 32, setting the 2025 Commissioner's salary at $41,200. The per diem and mileage reimbursements following 75 half day, 125 full, and federal rate for mileage. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I will be voting against the motion as I have done so in past years. I feel that I'm being compensated fairly for what I do for McLeod County, and I do look at this position as providing a service to the citizens of McLeod County with some compensation. I recognize the fact that recommendation has been made, and I support the work that was done to review as presented. But I will be voting against the motion based on the statement I just made.
Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose?
Aye.
We will go into a roll call. Nagel?
Aye.
Wright is yes. Kruger?
Aye.
Schmalz?
Negative.
Luthens?
Aye.
4-1, motion passes. Next item of business will be letter C. Will be consider adopting resolution 24 CB 33, setting the 2025 McLeod County Committee member per diem and mileage reimbursement rates. This would go towards the citizens that serve on our various committees. The recommendation that I see in front of me is to maintain the same at $75 for a half day, $125 for a full, and the mileage reimbursement at a federal rate. Those would be the numbers that we plug into the resolution if approved.
I would move to approve the recommendation.
Is there a second?
Oh, second.
We have a motion by Nagel and a second by Kruger to approve the resolution 24 CB 33 with the numbers of $75 half day, $125 full, and federal reimbursement rate on the mileage. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Just that it is the same as last year.
Yep, they did stay the same. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item D, we'll be setting the salary for the 2025 elected McLeod County Auditor Treasurer. Just a minute, I need to get my sheets pulled up so we have the right language. The salary that has been suggested for the McLeod County Auditor Treasurer is $118,823.89.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Nagel and a second by Kruger to approve the motion. This is to set the 2025 salary pursuant to Minnesota State Statute 384.151 for the Auditor Treasurer at $118,823.89, based on the responsibilities and duties of the office and taking into account the experience, qualifications, and performance of the incumbent. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up will be the position of sheriff. The recommended salary for the sheriff position, as brought forward today, is $150,000. That is the number presented. If there's a motion to accept.
Move to accept.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Kruger and a second by Nagel to set the sheriff's salary. The language for that will be to set the 2025 salary pursuant to Minnesota State Statute 387.20 for the sheriff at $150,000, based upon the responsibilities and duties of the office and taking into account the experience, qualifications, and performance of the incumbent. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we will proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next up will be the position of the attorney. The recommended salary that has been presented is $200,085.
$850.
Excuse me, you are correct. $200,850.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
if I could, before the board gets into discussion.
you go ahead.
Thank you. So, I wanted to express, just given the recent discussion and action regarding the additional assistant county attorney position, and in light of recent market adjustments that have been relating to my office, I would invite the board to consider a 0% increase for my salary for year 2025, just in recognition of that past movement, the board's support, and really the support for the staff for the work that they do. So I'll obviously defer to the process. I'm not trying to step out of it, but I am inviting the board to consider a 0% increase for year 2025. Thank you.
With the county attorney's recommendations, this would set the numbers according to the document I have in front of me at $195,000.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I actually, I have information, or I considered this, or this was talked about before the meeting, and I appreciate what Attorney Hench is doing here, and he's an elected official, and I'm gonna move to honor his wishes and leave his salary at $195,000.
Second.
We have a motion by Kruger and a second by Nagel. The language that follows will be set the 2025 salary pursuant to Minnesota State Statute 388.18 for the county attorney at $195,000, based on the responsibilities and duties of the office and taking into account the experience, qualifications, and performance of the request of the incumbent, and in this case, also his request. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
I know this, I'm the conservative, or supposed to be the conservative here, and I just attended a conference, and I crossed paths with a number of attorneys, and, you know, obviously, to us farm boys, it sounds like a lot of money, but it is, but it's well earned, and a lot of county attorneys are in the range. I'm going to say that our research and our work has got his number where a lot of other ones have been, but I respect his offer as an elected official to stay the same. So that was my decision.
Okay, any further comments on the question?
Mr. Chair and County Attorney, I support, the request that you've given us. It is in tune with the thought process I was moving through, especially on a reflection of how we did it last year. So I do appreciate the work you do, appreciate the work your staff does, and just want to say it's not a reflection of your performance or your staff's performance. It's just a reflection of the dollars involved here over the last 2 years. So thank you very much.
Any further comments, discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next up will be item G, would be a notification for a board workshop on December 27th. At this point, we did conclude all the business items that we needed to for 2024. Does any board member wish to get together on December 27th of 2024 for the board workshop?
No, we'd have to have another party for Daryl.
Got that one done.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I see no, we got through today pretty good, and I think we covered all the business needed for 2024.
We did. I think we got there. So we will not have that workshop. Then we will have a notification for the board workshop following the board meeting on Tuesday, January 7th, 2025 at the McLeod County Government Center. We'll now open our meeting up for open forum or press relations. Anyone wish to approach the board? Then our next item of business is that we do need to go into a closed meeting. I'd like to entertain a motion and a second to close the meeting on the following grounds: to discuss the purchase of real property related to Petenburg Park as reflected more fully in the board's packet and agenda, and to conduct the annual review of McLeod County Administrator Sheila Murphy. I know that's listed here, but we'll be making that review quite brief, I'm assuming, in the absence of Sheila. But we will need a motion to go into that closed meeting.
Second.
We have a motion by Nagel and a second by Schmaltz to go into that closed meeting.